Oh, hey, baby. How you doing? Oh, those are from us. You remember? I know it's been a while. Oh, yeah, that isn't your firing pin. So I know where I found those. They were on the curb. I was walking around the neighborhood and I saw the litter, and I didn't want a trashy neighborhood, so I thought I'd pick them up, put them in my pocket. I forgot about them. Okay, I can't lie to you, baby. It's Micah's gun. Like, I was at the range, he wanted me to shoot it. I didn't want to, but he kept pressuring me. You know, it just happened once, and it'll never happen again. I was stupid. I messed up.
Hey guys, so week 10 of the High Point League.
Baby, don't go. I can explain. Well, hey guys, hey Dad. So that brings us to the end of the High Point Action Shooting Challenge. 10 weeks of shooting the most basic, cheapest setup we can in competition just to see how things go. I wanted to film a quick video to kind of sum things up and answer a few questions we got. The first question I got the most was why? Why on earth would you shoot an inexpensive pistol like a High Point in competition when you own better guns? And the main reason was just for fun, for a goof. Me and Micah had been joking around for years about buying a High Point in a parking lot off a guy and running it in a match and just see what we can do with it. So the jokes were great. We really had a lot of fun talking about it. And it just popped in my head last fall that I'm going to do this. So I went ahead and got myself a High Point JHP 45 and shot the league. The other reason was just to prove to myself, like, what can I do with like the most basic gear? We're all a little spoiled who've been doing this a while. We've got some really good stuff and it works for us. So jumping into something I'm not used to, just trying something new and seeing how I measure up. I got to thinking about it a lot like camping. It's kind of like pretending to be homeless when you own a house. Shooting a High Point when you own better guns. It's like camping, just doing something different, getting a new perspective on the world. So the next question I got the most was, why am I including Micah's run with a modern pistol, red dot compensator, when they're two totally different guns? His completely outclasses my setup. Why is it in there? Of course he's going to blow you out of the water. And that's why. Just because that's the world we live in. It's a modern gun. It's where we're all going. I mean, iron sights are becoming a thing of the past. They'll hang on, they'll still be usable, there's nothing wrong with iron sights, but red dots are better, they are the future, and we should always measure ourselves by what's going on now, even by what's coming up, if we can look ahead to what's coming up. So that's why Micah's running's in there. He's a really good shooter, and this way on the stages when I did time out, at least in his run, you got to see the full course of fire, so you weren't just left wondering how it would have looked. That's how it would have looked if I had shot it better. So the whole league, I spent $380, and let's take a look and see what $380 gets you. Well, first off, it'll get you one of these bags from Midway. They're $13, come in a bunch of colors. They hold 7 mags on one side, and then we've got these pockets on the other side. You can put anything in here, a couple boxes of ammo. I think I've got a holster and a mag carrier in here. Also, with some of my other pistols, I'll have like an extra barrel and recoil spring for caliber conversions, or a little tool kit, or maybe NFA paperwork for an SBR or something. But they're just handy little bags that keep you organized. Here's a little tip I got from Micah. Put a name tag on here with which gun it goes to. Because if you don't have a lot of room in your safe, stacking a bunch of these is going to take up room. But if you put the bags with the magazines and holsters somewhere else and just put your guns in the safe, this way, when you go to the range, you grab the right bag with the right magazines. Because we've all been there. It's happened to me. You show up at the range with a 9 and you've got 45 mags, and it's not fun. It kind of ruins your afternoon. But so that's a good little trick there. And let's see, what should we grab next? Oh, the holster. So the holster was $30. I got this off of High Point's website. It is plastic. It's fairly flexible. I don't think it's just going to break on me. The attachment, it's a paddle holster. It's riveted on. You can't switch that out. The tension is adjustable. It came very tight. Even loosening this up a lot, it still had a lot of friction on the pistol. So much so when I'd put it in, like that last 1/8 inch, the slide would stand still and the frame would move, bringing the pistol out of battery. But when I'd draw the gun, the same friction would make sure the slide goes home. But I did buy a different holster for this league. I did buy an Uncle Mike's Super Belt slide support holster, and I bought the wrong size. I bought it for the small high point, and I'm glad I did. This thing is junk. It's just horrible. I don't even know if it's safe. If you have to put your gun in something, it's better than sweatpants. But I'm not even returning this. It was $20. For $30, you're better served by this pistol, this holster. It's not great, but it's light years ahead of this guy. I'm just gonna cut it up and throw it away. Save the world. You're welcome. So next off, we have mag carriers. So for $20, I got an Uncle Mike's 1911 mag carrier. Again, it's a paddle attachment. It is adjustable for tension here. But interesting thing with high point magazines, here where they lock into the frame, they've got this little bump, this little scallop. It's like a cheese grater. I'm sure if I ran cheese over here with the internals out, we would just have nice cheese shavings on the table. But it really digs in to the inside of this mag carrier, especially this one that's so close to the tension screw. So trying to get those out at speed was really difficult. I was shaving little pieces of plastic off. So I got in here with a Dremel and a file and took a little material out. So that's why I can use the 1911 mag carrier with high point mags. So next, magazines. So the gun came with one. I bought 8 more. The 8 more mags were $129. So they hold 9 rounds, and for the most part they worked. I didn't keep track of which mags gave me trouble. I did number them, but in the middle of a match I just didn't keep track of it. If this was going to be a serious competition setup, I'd go out and practice, and in practice I would determine if I had problems with a mag. In a match it's a little harder to do. It can be done, but I wasn't paying attention or caring. So next we have the pistol itself. So for $150 at 3 Bears in Chugiak, you can get yourself a single stack 45 ACP pistol. And yeah, $150 is not a lot of money. You got to think the manufacturer made money, the distributor made money, the retailer made money, and the government made money. There was an 11% excise tax on all firearms in the United States. That's a lot of people making money off of something that I paid $150 for. So you get what you pay for, and for the money, I think it's a good unit. If we have a lot of money, we're going different routes. But if you don't have much, it's doable. It gets you there. So next we have a grip sleeve. So I bought this from the High Point website again, and it was $14. It's just a piece of rubber that rolls on to the grip. You can do the same thing with a bicycle inner tube that you cut up, but this one has the nice High Point logo all over it, and it really needs it. There's some texturing here on these grips, but it's a very slippery plastic. The texturing does not do much for grip. So this is almost a necessity. If you get a High Point, just get an inner tube, buy one of these, do something, but you do need a little grip on the deal. So that was $150, and $14 for the grip, $150 for the pistol, and then I spent $23 on a Klein bolt bag. A lot of your industrial hardware stores will have these. They just go on your belt. They hold a bunch of stuff. They're nice and deep, so when you bounce around, things don't fall out of them like a hammer or bolts. But these are great dump pouches to carry your empties or your full ones. I use it to carry my full ones. I could have bought more the Uncle Mike's carriers, but at $20 a pop, I could spend $23 and I could hold all of my extra mags and have them on me. Because in single stack, you're going to need a lot of mags. So this way I have everything with me and I'm good to go. I don't have to have a lot on my belt. So that was done for a budget and utility purposes. So that's what you get for $380. So let's go over the gun itself and talk about how it shot. So first off, the sights. The sights, they work. They're a little hokey. They take some getting used to. I can't say I totally got used to the sights. So I took the pistol out for its first break-in. I loaded up all the magazines, so 81 rounds. And after the first magazine, I made an adjustment, and that was all I needed. I was right on. I was holding about a 3-inch group at 10 yards, which isn't something to write home about, but it's doable. 3-inch group, 10 yards, that'll solve most personal defense situations. But I rechecked 0 after the first week and after the 8th week, and they're still grouping right there where you place the sights. So the accuracy stayed the same. The sights did not lose 0. The front sight's cast into the slide. The rear sight is adjustable in plastic, but it held up. Mind you, I wasn't beating it against door frames or dropping it, but if you're nice to it, it'll be nice to you back. At least this one was. So next we got the trigger. The trigger is interesting. So with normally you'll have take up, you'll feel it press against the sear, and then you'll break the shot with more pressure. This guy in the take up, there's just a little hang up in the middle of the take up. So you'd rub up against that and increase pressure to push through it, and when you got through the rough spot, you'd hit right up against the sear and break the shot sometimes. So sometimes you'd break the shot a little early, sometimes you're pressing a little harder than you want. It wasn't consistent, it wasn't the same every time. So the trigger was weird. I don't know if there's a burr in there or something, just some parts that weren't finished. I didn't get in there and make any modifications. I ran this thing stock out of the box except for adjusting the sight and one other modification we'll get to. Oh, we'll get to that next. So the safety. The safety itself is not positive. You can put it halfway and it'll stay there. It's not like gonna click in one position or the other. So it was also very flat against the frame. So what I ended up doing, I was getting some pliers and bending it out just a little bit. I didn't get excessive with it. It's hardly wider than the pistol, but it would be the first thing that would hit if you set this on a flat table. And that just gave to where I could just sweep it down without having to consciously think about it. Because before you had to get your finger in there, find it, and then push it down. And same thing with up. You had to find it, push it up, and then look, because you didn't always know if you had it, especially with the cold weather we had and numb fingers. Bending that out was a necessity, and I'm pretty sure anybody can figure that out with a screwdriver or a pair of pliers. You can get that bent out. Problem we had with the gun was, one of the problems we had with the gun was it would fail to feed reliably. With ball ammo, it wasn't a big deal. The gun would not go fully into battery, just a quick little wrap on the back of the slide, and we were into business. It happened a lot with magazine changes. So the magazine would go in, and that top round would nosedive. And there's no slide release on this gun. So you have to grab the slide, pull it to the rear, and let it go. So I was already back here anyway, so when I was establishing my grip, I'd just hit the slide if I saw it wasn't in the battery and get a shooting grip on the gun. So it wasn't so big with the reloads. What really slowed me down was in the middle of a string of fire, I'm going along, and then it's like, oh, out of battery. So I gotta break my grip, hit it back in, get back on sights, get back on target. So that really slowed me down. But what really messed the gun up when I switched over to hollow point ammunition, that changed a quick tap to the back of the slide, which would still work sometimes with hollow points, but the big thing that messed up was now I'd have to remove the magazine, and a lot of times the slide would go forward on its own, reinsert the magazine, and then run the action. I think the slide coming back on that top round helped orient it up, whereas on my reloads, it just would stay nosedived, so that's why it needed a little help more with every magazine change. But that didn't mean that it'd always be up with the slide going over the top. So switching to hollow point sabotaged me. It definitely gave disappointing performance the last few weeks. But that was my own doing. I kind of sabotaged the gun, so we can't blame that on the gun. That's my ammo. Let's see. So the magazines did not drop free. I think once or twice I hit the button and it dropped free on me. I'm thinking we could probably remedy that. I can get up in here with a file or some sandpaper, knock some burrs down, smooth it out. I don't know if the magazine safety puts any friction on that magazine, and that might be able to be polished or smoothed up a little bit. So these mags might be able to drop free. If we could get the mags to drop free and it to feed reliably, we'd be dealing with a different animal here. But again, for $150, you can't pay people to go through and test all these. That's just going to make them cost more. So I understand why they didn't do the quality control, because they were hitting a price point and we're getting what we pay for. I'm not mad at them, but everybody wants to get the good one. Nobody wants the lemon. So I would categorize this as a manual semi-auto. So it is a semi-auto pistol. but you have to do so much work. It's kind of both. So you can't just take a modern pistol like a Glock or similar and put the magazine in and you're fairly confident out of 100 rounds, most of them are going to feed and you'd go. With this guy, you're hitting speed bumps all along the way, once every magazine or two. Something's going to happen, you're going to have to fix it, as quick as you can. So that's why I'm classifying this as a manual semi-auto. You save money up front, but you definitely have to work harder on the back end. I did not clean the gun the whole league. After I shot my 81 rounds of break-in, I took the gun apart, I cleaned it, I oiled it, and then I shot all the weeks without cleaning it. I did, however, add oil, just because I was hoping at some point it would smooth out and everything would work better. So adding oil was the only thing I did, and when I did clean it after the end of the league, it wasn't that dirty. Just a quick wipe down, a couple more drops of oil, swabbed through the bore. It wasn't that bad. So we put approximately 789 rounds through the pistol. After week 10, a few of the other guys shot it, so that bumped our round count up another 50 or 100 there. But so 780 rounds, just shy of 800, 789 rounds. But it did okay. I think it's still got a lot of life in it, other than wearing some of this coating off up under the slide here. It looks like it's pretty good. The inside the slide here, and then it looks like a shoulder on the barrel, like a locking block would be, but it's not. The slide comes to rest, and you can see where it's kind of battered that area on the barrel and the inside of the frame here. It's knocked the finish off, and I don't know if that's where it'll fail eventually, but when it does reach the rear of its travel, they do slam together. I don't know if that would wear out pins that hold the barrel in, or the slide itself, or the barrel itself, but I don't know how many 1,000 rounds it would take to do that, and I'm probably not going to find out. So looking at the High Point, it's a gateway gun. It's a gun that gets you into guns if you didn't grow up in a gun family, but you always thought they were neat, and you finally had the opportunity to buy one, and you're looking and you get a little sticker shock, and you're like, well, there's a gun, $150, $200, I'll get a gun. So it'll make you a gun owner. So that's a good thing about High Point, is they've made a lot of people who weren't gun owners. And that leads to other things. You'll seek out a range or an area where people shoot in your area. You'll talk to other people about guns because now you're part of the club. So don't hate on the High Point owner. Normally they're new and they're learning, and being a jerk to them is just going to push them out of shooting. So one guy in the league shared a story with me when we were signing up for the league. He said that when he heard I was shooting the High Point, he's like, I got to tell you, my first handgun was a 380 High Point. And he sounded a little ashamed, but we got to talking, and then partway through the league, I saw him again. He goes, I went out and bought one, just for nostalgia, to have a similar gun to what his first gun was. So he went out and bought another High Point 380. The 380 is a little less expensive than the 45, so wasn't a lot of money into it. So that walk down memory lane was pretty cheap. But I thought that was an interesting story. So the High Point, as far as competitively, set me back as a competitor. I'm about a B-class USPSA shooter. Kind of average. If there's 30 people in a match, I'm somewhere around 15. My good days, I'll be 12th. On my bad days, I'm a little lower. But I'm normally in the middle. So shooting the High Point bumped me down from an average shooter to a beginning shooter. That's just where it put me, with the jams and the rough trigger and the hitting no shoots and pushing the gun low. That's where it put me back. And one interesting thing it did to me, and I think this is mostly mental, but I would flinch a lot with it. You could see it through all the weeks. I'd aim in at a target, and I just, I'm going, and you'd see the gun dip when I didn't break the shot. And I caught myself and got back on the gun, acquired my sights, and broke it. Some of them I didn't catch myself, and I dipped the gun and just nailed a no-shoot or missed the target altogether. That was interesting. I couldn't shake it. It's kind of like those weeds in your yard. You knock them down, you think you got them all, then you turn your head, and there's another one. So I couldn't seem to shake it. I don't know if it was all just mental in my head, plus the drag in the trigger. Something was getting me, and I just couldn't get away from the flinching. But so the bottom line, it works. You can shoot competition with it. You can finish. but it's not easy. There's a lot better stuff out there. 10 weeks was a long time. To use the camping analogy again, it's kind of like that week-long camping trip you took where it was, 4 days of fun and 3 days of work. If you shorten it up a little bit, you could enjoy it more. So it was getting to be a little bit more work toward the end, but I signed up for this, so I did it High Point the whole time. I didn't even pull a 1911 or anything else out of the safe. This was all I took with me to the range, so if it didn't work, I'm stuck. There's no way to try to cry my way back into a reshoot or to switch guns if something malfunctioned. But so that was the High Point Action Shooting Challenge. Summer's coming up. I probably won't put out a lot more content. There's fishing to do. There's adventures to be had. There's a lot of work to be done outside before winter comes in again. I'm looking forward to what we do next, maybe in the fall. Me and Micah have talked about both shooting the exact same gun in competition. He's an M&P guy in 1911s. I'm a Glock guy in 1911s and revolvers. We've thought about both shooting a Beretta 92G. I've got one. We're both semi-familiar with the gun, but it's not our go-to. So we thought it'd be nice to both shoot something different, and we'd probably just get a belt that we could switch back and forth. So it'd be the exact same gun, holsters, mags, mag carriers, everything. We'd just be trading off and shooting the same gear. So that's fun. We might do that. I've also thought about shooting a stocked SBR Glock I have in the PCC division. I thought that'd be fun. Or another thing we've been joking about for years was homeless 3-gun. A lot of the competitors will push their rifle shotgun range bag around in these jogging strollers they've outfitted with gun clamps they use on ATVs. And it's just kind of funny to see a bunch of guys pushing jogging strollers around with their guns and their gear in it. And so we thought about getting a cheap pistol, a cheap shotgun like a Maverick 88 Mossberg, and a cheap rifle. Just something, like a $300 complete AR-15, like a Plum Crazy, American Tactical. I don't even really know the cheap brands, but just to find something that's, $300, $350 and call it homeless 3-gun, put all our stuff in a shopping cart instead of a baby stroller, and just see what we can do with the rock bottom, kind of like this league, just for fun to see, what's going to happen. Like, you can buy the best gear or not, and most people don't do the or not, so just for fun. Oh, one other thing, the High Point, where I would rank it. For competition and or self-defense, I would put it behind one of these guys, a 6-shot revolver that's not cut from moon clips. So just a standard revolver with standard sights, whether it's a Colt like this one or a Smith & Wesson or a Ruger, I would put the High Point just behind this. Not 100% reliable with old revolvers. They break too, they have issues, they get out of time, the ejector rod will become bent or unscrewed sometimes. But with the nicer trigger pull, generally, and the accuracy, the revolver just barely edges out the High Point. Definitely for home defense or carry, I would pick a 6-shot revolver over the High Point. And in competition, even though I think if the High Point ran, I could beat my scores with the revolver, the reliability and just the fun of the revolver just edges the revolver just ahead of the High Point. I picked this one to show for an example because this model was used in the Andy Griffith Show. That's what Barney Fife carried in his holster. So the High Point is just behind the Barney Fife gun. So that's where I would rank it in guns in the world. And a good used revolver is going to cost you about twice as much as the High Point. So it still wins on value. For all of this gear here is about what you'd pay for a good used revolver, somewhere between $300 to $400 depending on the condition and who you got it from. But I think that's all I got. I've been rambling on a long time. See you guys next time. I don't know what's coming up next, but thanks for sticking in there. I'll see you later. Bye. Pew, 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 pew.